It is 1 o'clock. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone studios. I'm Jackson Williams. In NFL news, the Chiefs and guard Trey Smith are putting the final touches on a massive new extension that will make him the highest paid guard in the NFL. It'll be a 4-year contract worth $92 million with $70 million of that guaranteed, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter. It is day 2 of SEC Media Days in Atlanta, Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, and Auburn, all speaking today. Coach Heupel, Arion Carter, Miles Kitselman, and Bryson Eason will be interviewed later today on 3HL as Coach Hugh Freeze and quarterback Jackson Arnold. The MLB holds its annual All-Star Game tonight. On the mound for the AL, it will be Tariq Skubal, and for the NL, it will be Paul Skeens. First pitch for that All-Star Game scheduled for 7 p.m. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
With Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. Blaine is on vacation. Got the grand poobah of sports radio. Jackson Williams behind the glass. Jackson, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, bud? How are you?
We're doing good. We're off and rolling. We'll have 3HL join us at 1:45, and we think Coach Mack will be making his return at 2:20 p.m. today. South's most trusted Ford dealer, Two Rivers Ford, is who he is brought to you by. Got a lot to get to today. Obviously, Trey Smith, congratulations to former University of Tennessee grad, and who should be a Tennessee Titan, if not for Racey McMath and Brady Breeze and the other jabronis that John Robinson drafted.
Titans legends.
Yeah. But, you know, he's over there at Kansas City, got paid a lot of money, highest paid guard in the NFL. So good for him right there. But to be fair to Marciano here in the F&M Bank chat, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live, Pretty Ricky Scoops, he's the guy that broke this a couple of days ago. And here it is. Another one for Ricky. For those that do not know, Pretty Ricky is on, we believe he is inside one of the sports agencies leaking contract negotiations before anything else. So if you're not following him, you should. But he was all over it. Just real quick, speaking of contracts, I was in the 3HL chat yesterday, and I saw Karen ask about this question. What is going on with these second-round pick deals? And I had someone else ask me later that day as well. So I figured this would be a good time to maybe just kind of walk through that, answer any questions you may have. As the voice of the people behind the glass, Jackson, the Grand Poobah, you will be the voice of the people, the voice of the fans. And, of course, if you want to ask your own questions, 615-737-1045. But as of right now, only 2 second-round draft picks have signed. And they were picked 33rd and 34th overall. It's been Carson Schweisinger of the Browns and Jaden Higgins, the wide receiver of the Texans. Jaden Higgins is the one who signed first, and the Texans pulled kind of a Browns move where they did something that changes the entire landscape of the NFL and gave Jaden Higgins a fully guaranteed contract. This led the Browns to giving Carson Schweisinger a fully guaranteed contract. We saw that Trey Harris is holding out of training camp for the Chargers, which started over the weekend. We've heard that Quinshon Judkins, he's got a lot of personal problems off the field, too, that he's got to worry about. But apparently he's got contract negotiations that have hit a stall because everybody is wanting a fully guaranteed contract in the second round. This, of course, means Femi Oladejo has not signed a second round or his rookie contract as of right now, which means that there is likely a holdout coming for him with training camp right around the corner. And I can't think of any draft pick outside of Cam Ward that probably needs to be at camp the most. And really, he probably needs to be at camp the most. He is a former inside linebacker. that has gone to edge about 3 games into the season. Last year, his final year of college. And he's going to be a pretty important part of this defense, I would assume. And he needs to be at training camp. He needs to be learning. He needs to be practicing. Is this a DEFCON 1 kind of situation? Probably not.
Probably DEFCON 3.
Maybe DEFCON 3. I would probably go DEFCON 4 because you could probably, kind of streamline an edge rusher's learning process in year 1 if he does one thing really well, and maybe that speed to power move will be enough to get him by. But I look at it and I go, everybody right now is waiting on Nick Emmanwori, the safety for the Seattle Seahawks, because he was drafted 3rd overall in the 2nd round. So he is the guy that sets the tone. Comes down to who blinks first. Someone in the 2nd round blinks first and says, well, I need to go ahead and sign my contract because I want to get out on the field and start practicing and try to win a starting job. Or is it going to be the teams that say, hey, these contracts aren't that much to begin with. Why not go ahead and fully guarantee them? Sure, it starts a slippery slope because then you'll have 3rd rounders wanting to do it and so forth and so forth. But to be honest, it's really not that big of a deal to probably fully guarantee most of these contracts. And maybe it comes down to 1st and 2nd rounds, fully guaranteed. 3rd rounds, you get 3 years fully guaranteed. 4th rounds, you get, and maybe we'll throw in 4th rounds with the 3rd rounds and do 3 years guaranteed. Then everybody else gets 2 years fully guaranteed. But as of right now, this is kind of something that really does concern the Tennessee Titans, because where is your pass rush coming from? And they expect Femi Oladejo to be a big part of it, and he has to learn how to play the position. Now, he could practice and do all that stuff like elsewhere, but this is not a guy that needs to be falling behind. So, Jackson, as the voice of the people, what's your level of concern? I know you said DEFCON 3, but what is your actual concern with this whole situation?
I'm mildly concerned. He's a player I'm excited to see at camp. So if he's not at camp, I will be disappointed because he's just this big ball of energy, he seems like, from what we saw at rookie minicamp. And I really enjoyed what we saw at rookie minicamp, and I want to see him continue to build on it. And this team's pass rush without him is on track to be dreadful.
Yeah, I mean, it's already perilous.
It's already perilous. Right? You can't, if he was a wide receiver, it's probably DEFCON 1.
Yeah.
But since he's an edge rusher, it bumps it up to 2 or 3.
Well, you know that DEFCON 1 is the highest.
Oh, DEFCON 5.
So it'd be DEFCON 5. Yeah, I'm with you. This is...
It's the position. It's absolutely the position.
Right, because we've already talked about, and we'll talk about a little bit more, but the Tennessee Titans need 3 more pass rushers next year.
They need 10.
Yeah, they really do need 10.
Well, Arden Key.
Arden Key's so specialized, but last year of his contract. Draymond Jones, 1-year contract. Lorenzo Carter, 1-year contract. Ali Gay, doesn't really matter. Jalen Harrell, former 7th-round pick. Who knows what he is besides a special teamer? So it's really... Femi Oladejo's the future.
You're looking to legitimately build your edge rushing core around Femi Oladejo.
Right. I mean, that's your guy. Now, listen, chances are that next year you'll probably be picking somewhere in the top 15. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. And you're going to probably have a chance to get a really good edge rusher in the top 15. But as of right now, that guy will probably be coming in to complement what Femi Oladejo does. And right now, the expectation I think fans have for this pass rush is already low. But if this starts going through 2 weeks, 3 weeks of camp, this is going to be a massive blow to an already unit that blows.
Way with words there, bud.
There you go. I mean, it just really is this pass rush is so terrible. I don't know where they're going to get pass rush. I know that hashtag double digits for Jeffrey Simmons and all that jazz, even though he's never done it. We know that Tavondre Sweat pushes the pocket, but he's probably not going to be a sack guy. He's going to be a pressure guy. He's going to be a space eater. We know that Femi Oladejo, career high 4.5 sacks. That's all right for your first time edge rushing, but that's not great. Lorenzo Carter, 0 sacks. I mean, it's pretty terrible how this whole thing has been handled since the departure of Harold Landry. Because I understand why you let Harold Landry go. But I did think that they would be like, okay, we're letting Harold Landry go and we're going to find the way to replace him a little bit better. But then they didn't replace Danico Autry properly either. So, it's kind of like two different regimes in charge of roster building. And I don't see how they have taken this edge position very seriously, in my opinion.
I feel like they made the decision of quarterback over edge rusher. Obviously, they did.
Right.
But you can't patch all the holes that this roster has. And they had an opportunity to get a top-tier pass rusher or a top-tier quarterback in the draft. Yeah. And they chose the top-tier quarterback.
And it's not like you can get top-tier, technically, edge rushers in free agency, but there were probably better free agents to get than just Draymond Jones and Lorenzo Carter.
They have to
Draymond Jones is good, but find someone else.
But they have to want to come here.
Yeah, that's true. And you may have to pay them a little bit. And then I go to the draft where it's like, okay, you drafted a project instead of drafting someone with a little bit more stability and a little bit more of a heavier resume. That's the other thing is that they kind of threw out resume out the window for some of these other players too, not just Femi Oladejo, but that's a pretty big one to throw the resume out on is pass rush. And so for me, it's like I want Femi to succeed, but he can't succeed not being here. He has to be here. And I'm not saying that he needs to be the first one to cave because I would hate to be the first second round pick to cave and not take a fully guaranteed contract. So to me, if I'm the Tennessee Titans in their particular position, with what his contract probably is going to cost, I'd cave. And if you want to call it caving, but I'd give him a fully guaranteed contract because it's better to have him at camp than not at camp over fully guaranteeing $3 or $4 million extra dollars. I mean, wouldn't you view it that way, Jackson? If you were the Tennessee Titans, it's just like $3 or $4 extra million you're fully guaranteeing. Why put up a fight?
I think you don't want to be the first team to. I think they're waiting to see. A lot of these teams are waiting to see because Femi was the 53rd pick.
Yeah.
So that's 20 selections lower than the guys who got the fully guaranteed deal. So they probably want to see what pick 46 gets and pick 48 and pick. If those guys are able to cave, then Tennessee probably doesn't have to. I think they're just not trying to do it if they don't have to.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at it from the perspective of, well, if you go ahead and do it, that means everybody else has to. You know what I'm saying? You let the Tennessee Titans be the one to kind of screw over the rest of the NFL for once, instead of the rest of the NFL screwing the Tennessee Titans over. Let's be the trendsetters.
Well, the trend has already been set.
Yeah, but now you're number 53, so now everybody before you has to pay theirs fully guaranteed.
I don't think they want to do that.
Yeah, it's all about the precedent. It's not about salary cap. It's not about cash. It's the precedent that they're trying to avoid because we've seen it in the collusion case, right?
Exactly. They don't want fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL.
I don't know. First off, of course, we know why the Browns do it, but the Texans just kind of screw everybody with giving Jaden Higgins right out of the gate. It was just a couple of days after the draft, if I'm not mistaken, that they do that. You got to have the pass rush, though, and the longer that this holdout thing happens with these second rounders, the more the teams like the Tennessee Titans, who may be relying on their second rounder in a heavy rotation with the lack of depth or lack of top tier talent, are going to start suffering. So it'll just be really interesting to see who caves first. When we come back, Brian Callahan was picked by CBS Sports to be the worst head coach in the NFL. Duh. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone.
Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking. I lost 70 pounds and my friend lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months.
Wow, what are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed for only $49.99.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door. 615-737-1045 is the number. In about 24 minutes, we'll be joined by 3HL. They're live at SEC Media Days down there in Atlanta. Great coverage. They've had some great guests on. I mean, Diego Pavia was there in the Boom Boom Room with Ron Slay yesterday. It was good stuff. So make sure you go check that out wherever you can get your 105 The Zone podcast. 615-737-1045 is the number. Brian Callahan, according to CBS Sports, is dead last in their coaching rankings. And I'm not surprised. I don't know how you could sit through the season that the Tennessee Titans went through last year as a fan and not say that that was the worst team, which is a direct reflection of the coach in the NFL.
They were terrible.
They were absolutely terrible. And I think we obviously know, if you want to use some of the words that Warren Sharp used about Will Levis, he called Will Levis a buffoon. He called Will Levis a double agent in the Tennessee Titans section of the Sharp Football Review.
A double agent? What does that mean?
Agent. That means he's working for the other team with all of his turnovers. And sure,
I've never heard a quarterback referred to as a double agent.
A double agent. I'll have to find the exact phrasing. Oh, yeah, here it goes. The Titans were 0-3, and Levis was seemingly a double agent, destroying the Titans' chances to notch wins. Of course, you had Brian Callahan. You had special teams, right? He hired Colt Anderson. He gave Colt Anderson a shot. He's the one who constructed this roster where you had 3 new coordinators that have never coordinated in the NFL or never called plays in the NFL. This is where you overestimated what Will Levis was. That was Brian Callahan. He overestimated him. He allowed the overestimation of right tackle. These are all things that go against Brian Callahan. Now, does this necessarily mean he can't rebound and not be a good head coach? No, obviously not. He can rebound. But we're going to have to see that he changed and adapted to what went wrong last year. If he comes out trying to do the same stuff he did last year on offense and allows the same stuff to happen on defense, then you're doomed.
Well, I think you could keep some. I think some of the stuff on offense would have worked if you didn't have a double agent at quarterback.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that everything needs to change, but I mean, what I'm talking about as far as not necessarily schematically, I'm talking about, it kind of feels like they just threw their hands up and said after the first 4 weeks, well, it's Will Levis. What can we do? What can we do? I mean, that's what it kind of feels like when you go back and see that they were ranked in bottom in RPO usage. Ranked in the bottom.
They need to use if one thing that the offense needs, if they need to use RPO, they need to be one of the top RPO teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and not
with Cam Ward.
And I will say, because we're going to talk about this in depth this week, but Cam Ward doesn't necessarily have to have RPOs to be successful. He doesn't have to have these easy buttons, but Will Levis obviously did. They were bottom in the league in RPO, bottom in the league in motion, bottom in the league. Now, we're not saying number 32, but below average. Below average in play action. RPO, motion, and play action are all things that could have helped Will Levis last year and could have helped Mason Rudolph, and they chose not to change anything to kind of adapt that. And I get it. You go back and watch the tape, Jackson. For some odd reason, Stoney Keeley hates life.
I have not watched a single play of Titans 2024 football.
But if you did...
since the end of the season.
If you did like Stoney, who is a masochist, he hates him. I guess he hates himself. He noticed that Will Levis is not stepping up in the pocket. So even when he had a clean pocket, he's not stepping up to make the throws. He's not even taking advantage of it.
What was he doing?
Standing back there with like a chicken with his head cut off. He's just trying to throw from his 5 or 7 step drop instead of moving back up into the pocket. And maybe that's a lack of trust. Maybe he earned mistrust and he does not trust the offensive line, but you got to.
But for preservation's sake, when, the right tackle is essentially a revolving door, you might want to step up in the pocket. That way, when he does get blown by, it at least the guy has to bend to get to you. It just seems like a kind of you're waiting to get bull rushed right there.
So for me, it's like, listen, you guys know, I was hashtag Never Levis on Twitter before he got drafted. I thought he was going to go in the second round. I didn't really think it was going to be to the Tennessee Titans, but here we are. And there's a lot of blame to put on Will Levis. There's a lot of blame to put on the offensive line, but all that stops and starts really with the head coach. And he can only do so much, right? Players have to go out there and execute, but you have to put your players in the best position to succeed. And I look at last year's team, and it started out, he did. In the first 5 weeks, he was putting them in a position to win games. And Will Levis was destroying it. After that, it just was bad. And I'm not saying that again, that is not all on Brian Callahan, but there's room for improvement. And he would tell you that. He would tell you there's room for improvement.
They won 3 games.
He won 3 games. So we can't be all up in arms or surprised that outlets are going to rank him at 32. Because we've at least seen Brian Daboll get something out of Daniel Jones in his first season as head coach. We didn't see that with Brian Callahan, and maybe I'm different than everybody else, but I do think Will Levis, theoretically, I guess, should be a better quarterback than Daniel Jones.
I think they're pretty close.
I mean, they're pretty close.
I think Daniel Jones is the better quarterback.
And maybe, I'm not going to really argue with it, but again, we saw Brian Daboll at least be able to execute something similar, something of an offensive to get a system to get to the playoffs with Daniel Jones, in spite of Daniel Jones, you could say. Now, it didn't last, and Brian Daboll's now got to do it with Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, and Jackson Dart. But I wouldn't blame people for having more faith that Brian Daboll can at least do that over Brian Callahan doing what he can do. And he's got a lot to prove. Now, personally, I'm of the opinion, I don't think there was a real big issue with scheme, with play design. Do think there was an issue with play calling. I do think there was an issue with overvaluing your own personnel and not aggressively trying to attack some positions on the offensive line. I do think there was some of that.
How much could they aggressively attack?
To be fair, there was Jermaine, I'm going to butcher his last name, Illuminator, something like that. But he's over at the Giants. He wasn't a great right tackle, but he was a very good right tackle.
That's not on Brian Callahan. That's on former GM Rank Carthon.
Well, it could be on Bill Callahan as well. We know that they went to this staff and they asked, what do you guys need? What do you guys looking for? What do you guys want? Maybe it all is on Rand Carthon. I think a Jaquan Jackson is probably all Rand Carthon. I think that kind of pick is, but there is some blame to be shared by the coaching staff for certain decisions that were made, like the constant rotation at right tackle, just trying to find someone to pick. Well, at some point, you got to kind of like put your GM on the hot seat and try to find somebody. And I look at it and I go, okay, well, Cush went down, so maybe there's a little bit of offensive line grace there. But at the end of the day, players were getting open, but the quarterback wasn't executing, and that's really what he was brought in for, was for the quarterback position. He was brought in to be a head coach and all that kind of stuff, but he's brought in for the quarterback position. Now, he's not a guru or whisperer, but that was what he sold himself for, is I can work with Will Levis. Maybe Will Levis just can't be worked with, but I do feel like when you look at these RPO numbers, Jackson, these pre-snap motions and these play action numbers, he could have done more. And at some point during the training camp, you kind of have to realize, okay, maybe him and Calvin Ridley aren't going to get on the same page. Maybe these inaccurate passes are because he's an inaccurate passer. You are what you are. We saw what he was in college. And so I understand that I'm sure maybe there's a lot of people that actually understand why Brian Callahan is number 32. I totally understand. And maybe there's people that disagree with it, but where are you ranking them?
Yeah, where are you? 31?
31. And that's still not good enough.
Who's the most pre-fired coach in the NFL right now?
I would have to say probably Brian Daboll, right? I don't think Zach Taylor is on the hot seat like everybody else, but I would say Brian Daboll, Mike McDaniel, those two guys come to mind first because different markets, different expectations set on both of them. So to me, it's like, I don't know. I just kind of look at it and say, I get it. I understand it. But I do think he's going to prove to be better than 32. I know it may not sound like it, but I do believe Brian Callahan is better than 32. I do believe that he is going to get better. I do think that this marriage between him and Cam Ward is going to work. To what heights? To what expectations in year one? I don't know, a 6 or 7 win team. But I don't think that putting him at 32 right now is some egregious disaster of a pick. It makes sense. Does it make sense to you? We got Ross behind the glass now.
Talking about Callahan's ranking?
Yeah.
It does just because of record.
Right.
And, there wasn't, with him being an offensive guy and a quote-unquote quarterback guru, with the quarterback play we had, makes sense to me.
Because you do, despite your quarterback's limitations, the job of the head coach is try to limit those expectations. And I'll be honest, I don't think he did a good enough job. I think he decided that I'm just spitballing here, but maybe he's like a lot of NFL coaches. He said, none of this is going to work. I just got to run my system the way I want it to run because I believe in my system. Maybe that's what it was. But at the end of the day, I don't know if he did the best of his ability to put everybody in position to succeed. And I think he would be honest and tell you that.
I think he would too. And I think he came in this offseason, he seemed to be very self-reflective and trying to improve on what they did last year. But I think at a certain point too, and guys have talked about this, but with the Levis turnovers, I think there was a part of Callahan as a play caller where it's like, can I call this play in this situation? Can I truly run my system with the risk of these awful turnovers happening?
And the offensive line. But that's why you got to get creative. You can't just run the same stuff over and over. That's, I think, where I think there is a level of creativity, and I think there is a system that works. But I don't know if the loyalty to the system was the right move. Now, it landed you Cam Ward, but you weren't in love with Cam Ward in the middle of the season. This wasn't like you knew that Trevor Lawrence or Joe Burrow or someone like that was coming out. So I look at it and I go, yeah, he has a good system because you could see it. You go back and watch the film, you can see that if the offensive line maybe held up or the quarterback would actually go up into the pocket, you saw glimpses of that scheme, that system, that play design, that play call could work. But at the same time, when you know that it's not big, you can't do those things, right? You can't trust your blocking. You can't trust either of your quarterbacks to make the big plays when necessary. Then you have to adapt. And I feel like there was a certain level of adaptability, not only just from Brian Callahan, but also from the defense. And I look at it and I go, you can't blame the wide receivers, because when you look at Will Levis and his percent of his incompletions for receiver error was 36 out of 42 quarterbacks. Low. He didn't have a lot of receiver errors that led to his incompletions. What it was his inaccuracy. He had the 6th highest inaccurate passes on those incompletions. Whereas Mason Rudolph was 38th. Mason Rudolph was 38th out of 42 quarterbacks when it comes to percent of his incompletions that were due to inaccuracy. So you can't say, oh, it's the receiver's fault. You can't say that it was really maybe even Brian Callahan's fault. It was really the quarterback's fault. Mason Rudolph is just a backup. And a backup on a bad team is an even worse backup than a backup on a good team. Like everybody's like, well, he was better with the Steelers. Well, the Steelers are infinitely a better team.
They set him up for success.
Yeah. The Mason Rudolph Steelers, when he was with the Steelers, they were a better team. They had a much better defense. They had a much better receiving core. They had a running game they were dedicated to, and they had a much better offensive line. So, yes, Mason Rudolph is going to look better when he's in a better situation. Like, we have to understand that this was a terrible situation, but I don't know if Brian Callahan really understood how to adapt to that terrible situation.
Do you know if they tried to re-sign Mason Rudolph?
Yeah, I believe they did. I would have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they did try to re-sign as a backup, but he wanted more money.
Okay, so he would. Okay, I was just curious if he.
And JR says, so a better team elevates a quarterback. Yes, a better team elevates bad quarterbacks. Like
Will Levis, I would say the 2023 Titans are a better football team than the 2024 Titans. You know who looked a lot better in 2023?
Will Levis. But you know who also was more willing to take the ball out of Will Levis's hands?
Mike
Vrabel. And maybe Brian Callahan could have learned that, hey, we're not going to be able to run 69% 11 personnel, because there's a really good line in this Sharp Football Stats thing, and it really comes down to this, and I thought this was really good, is that I think with the transition, they went from a team that was a run-heavy team relying on the defense in Mike Vrabel, and then in one offseason, they tried to be a pass-heavy team with bad quarterbacks.
And that's just not the makeup of the roster they had.
There needed to be a bridge there.
You subtracted Derrick Henry, but you didn't add. I mean, you added a meaningfully talented receiver in Calvin Ridley, but you didn't have D-Hop he was traded after week 6.
And D-Hop he was deteriorating anyway. He was declining anyway. He was still
the second best receiver on this team by a wide margin.
Well, I would say actually NWI was, but at the time you're talking, yes, I would agree. But NWI technically was, which then begs to the question: why did they try to force this Treylon Burks thing to happen?
Because Treylon Burks was picked in the first round.
I know, but you got to.
That's the thing.
I know, but that's the thing that I say is that you got to be adaptable quicker, and maybe he will be. You got to pull the rip. You got to be more willing to pull the ripcord.
And Treylon Burks on paper, which has always been the issue. It's never in the NFL. It never translated to the field. On paper, Treylon Burks is a good receiver. In terms of physical skills.
Well, I don't know how those physical skills are still working right now. I mean, how good does... I mean, at one point, I would agree with you. But it's not hard
for an offensive-minded coach to salivate over the five-tool guy, like they say in baseball, that Treylon Burks appeared to be.
And to be honest, he was caught salivating over Will Levis.
Yeah, the big arm, a big quarterback, and, both of those bit him squarely in the ass.
Yep. When we come back, we'll be joined by 3HL. They're live down in Atlanta at SEC Media Days. We'll figure out who they're talking to today, who they talked to yesterday, and we'll figure out Kitzelman said what about the University of Tennessee football team? We'll talk about all that when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by the All Four Seasons Garage Store, 615-737-1045. Got Grand Poobah Jackson Williams behind the glass, and we're going live to Atlanta to 3HL. Where do I have the whole 3HL team? Is that the case?
You've got me, you've got Don, and Slay's.
He's got his headset on, but he's.
He just doesn't want to talk to me.
That?
He's ignoring me.
He's passed out.
Yeah, you might have caught him at nap time.
Oh. Now I wish you guys were on video.
Well, that's a thing that Kirby could make happen potentially, but I don't know.
All right, Don, I'm going to start with you. A.J. McCarron, have y'all fought yet?
No, he's not here.
He's not there?
No.
I haven't seen him.
Oh,
No.
So you think he's hiding from you? Is he running away?
Absolutely. So I did try
it.
to book him on our show, but I guess Buck and Lucas booked him.
Oh, man. See, he's really just scared of you, I think.
I think so, too. I mean,
who
it's
isn't? Let's be real.
understandable.
Who is not scared of Don Davenport?
That is true. I'm not too scared because I'm going to go into this next thing about Hugh Freeze.
Oh,
and he says,
Oh.
I believe, regarding Auburn in the college football playoffs this season, he says, I quote, I believe we'll be in that discussion. So, Don, did the college football playoffs approve a NIT level tournament for Auburn to play in?
Just funny guy. You're the funny guy. Listen, all of y'all, just funny guys today on Auburn's Day. Buck was the same way.
Yeah, Hugh Freeze will be on with us today, so we'll see what's going on there. But
don't you worry about Hugh.
Yeah, Babsy may and Slay may have run into him last night, but he'll be on in the 5 o'clock segment. Also, Auburn quarterback Jackson Arnold.
Listen, it's my yearly. It's my one. Since I never get assigned any Auburn games from ESPN ever. This is my yearly hangout with Coach Freeze, so I can find out what's really going on behind the scenes. So we're good.
Last Auburn joke, but did you hang out with him on the golf course?
Do you think that that's a lot of golf?
That is a lot of golf.
16
rounds
is it
for
20?
the year?
20 rounds a year? Come on, man.
No, but someone said that it was 10 in just June alone. That's a lot of golf.
10 in June.
But if you're a football coach and you're going to play 10 rounds of golf, that's the month to do it, right?
I guess so.
Also, FYI, it stays light until like 10 o'clock at night there.
That's true. But, man, that sure is a lot of golf. That's just a lot of golf.
Everybody's
That's
hating
more than
on the
once a
man.
week in June.
Listen, there is nothing wrong with that. And you know what? Maybe he's playing some golf because he feels pretty damn good about where he is.
The funniest part about that, though, to me, is that the guy that dove into that little topic is Steve Spurrier, who at Florida played golf every single day. And Steve Spurrier is such the golfer. He's this kind of golfer. You have to putt out everything with him, even if it's 2 feet, because everything's got something on that. Yeah. You put everything out with him.
Dorian will tell you all about that.
See, when I golf, we just do a big team scramble. That's just the quickest way. Let's just get through it because none of us are good. All right. So this must be the day for quotes because then you got Tennessee tight end Miles Kitselman has a message for anybody out there, according to Chris Lowe. And there's a lot of people that don't expect anything out of us, and I absolutely love that. You guys are going to look up at midseason and go, Tennessee is 7-0. They're doing it. So, Brent, I'll ask you, where's your confidence level that we will be looking up at the midseason going 7-0?
Well, I mean, until the outcome of the Georgia game is different, I have no reason to believe that they're winning that one. But and winning at Alabama is going to be difficult. I think Zeph was won the last time Tennessee won at Alabama. I think Tennessee obviously will be good enough to be in both of those games, but for them to be 7-0, I would not bet on that. 5-2 maybe more likely. But I appreciate the confidence. And Miles Kisselman and Arian Carter and Bryson Eason will all join us in the 320 segment today. So,
there you go.
We'll ask about that.
Yeah, you had a great episode yesterday with all kinds of guys that I'm interested in hearing from Diego Pavia to Austin Simmons. I mean, how do you guys think that Diego Pavia acquitted himself in the boom boom room? I was going to ask Slade that, but he's napping. Hello, do y'all hear me?
Yeah, we were thinking maybe because Slay is listening on his headphones, we were thinking maybe he heard you and would pop up and talk about it. So, but apparently not.
The funniest thing about Diego Pavia is how confident and comfortable he is, and the fact that he dropped an F-bomb and 2 S-bombs during our one conversation with him. So, Pavia in the Boom Boom Room is something, man. And when Slay said, I went to Tennessee, like he couldn't even finish his next thought as Diego Pavia looked at him and said, I'm sorry.
Very confident. I thought he did great in the Boom Boom Room.
Was that a legit tuxedo that he was wearing yesterday?
I didn't notice it as a tuxedo. Did you?
No, it was just a bow tie, right?
Yeah. Well, we couldn't tell. You know, it just kind of looked. You know, in all the pictures, I was like, is it a tuxedo or is it not?
No,
a
I
tuxedo?
think it was just a bow tie.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Yeah, it was a suit with a bow tie.
It was a suit with a bow tie. There
He's
you
just
go.
swaggy.
He had. Hey, listen, that bling on that watch for sure. I mean,
Did
that
you
thing
see
was.
that?
I saw it. I was trying to figure out if it was a Rolex or not. And
it was blinding. Like you could see the light in certain situations where Kirby like wasn't covering up something, and then like you just blind you in the camera.
Oh man, I loved it. I should have put my shoes up against it.
You should have and Slay's little basket for his blinged out basket for his.
Did you see that? Did you see what I did?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an elite
Rhinestone
basket.
sign.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
I'm back,
He's
y'all.
in the building.
I'm back up.
It's an elite basket.
I might be back down in just a second.
This is how to consume Zach's conversation is to sleep through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm driving the Sprinter van, and I look back, and Babs has her feet up, and she's watching Scarface and crafting things. She had, like, bedazzled tools out. It was crazy.
That seems very, like, Generation X mom. Like, I mean, like, I think you're probably closer to generation. Are you a millennial, Babs?
Yeah.
Are you? Because we're pretty close in age.
Yeah, she's a
I don't know what any of this is.
You can walk down that plank all you want to, Zach. I don't know.
Group me in with us, man.
Yeah. All right. Favorite besides Diego Pavia in the Boom Boom Room, who else acquitted himself the best in the Boom Boom Room yesterday that everybody needs to make sure to go check out that particular interview?
Yesterday.
I'm gonna go with what's my guy name? The Vandy young man is gonna play both ways.
Martell Height.
Martell Height. I like Martell Height.
He was my pick too, and he was looking sharp and that cream.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Martell Height too.
He got a secrecy about him that he's gonna be like they don't. It feels like, man, they wish they would have never said anything about it. We talked to him about playing offense.
Yeah.
And Diego lit up.
Defense, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
Diego was super excited about this.
And I was like, to Diego, I was like, man, your head coach said Martell's playing wide receiver, so I guess this is where we are. And I mean, he goes, well, the head coach talks too much. Yeah. And then he started smiling about Martell Height and what he brings to the table as an athlete. And I was like, do you have to lobby for a guy like that? And he was like, yeah, but I don't think I needed to.
Yeah.
So
that is
I think that's going to be interesting. Yeah,
that'll be an interesting team to watch this year.
Lions, you think they taking a step back this year?
I don't think so. I think they're either going to maintain or take a step up because I do think with what Clark Lee and I think with Diego Pavia's attitude, it's hard to root against or bet against Vandy right now because I'd take the money over on their win total for sure easily.
I agree.
Easily. Who all do y'all have today? You mentioned a few of them, but just want to make sure everybody gets the full rundown of what they can look forward to today.
Well, Zach, thank you for asking. We've got the Tennessee players in the 320 segment currently scheduled in the 320 segment. That's Arian Carter, Miles Kitselman, and Bryson Eason. At 5 o'clock, Auburn quarterback Jackson Arnold, head coach Hugh Freeze, Georgia linebacker C.J. Allen at 5:20. We also have Josh Heupel at some point during the 4 o'clock hour. They're just going to bring him by during that window. So that's what's going on today. And then tomorrow we start the show with Commissioner Greg Sankey live at the table. So that's kind of what we're working with right now.
That sounds like a loaded week and a loaded episode. I really appreciate you guys jumping on with us today. So 3HL later today.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, Zach.
Going back to sleep, Lions.
Hey, War
I'm going
Eagle.
back to sleep.
Yeah, go back to sleep. War giggle or whatever. Giggle.
War giggle.
Yeah, well, giggle. Whatever that bottom thing is that she did.
Sorry that you made a bad decision in your life.
All right, that will do it for us. When we come back, we'll get back talking about Tennessee Titans. We'll also get to your phone calls. 615-737-1045 is the number. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone.
There are a lot of diagnoses out there, and there's a pill for everything. But not all diagnoses are accurate, and not all.
Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking. I lost 70 pounds and my friend lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months.
Wow, what are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed for only $49.99.
It is 2:01. Good afternoon from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Jackson Williams. The Jets, an all-pro cornerback Sauce Gardner, have agreed to terms on a massive new extension, making him the highest-paid corner in NFL history, per Ian Rappaport. It is a 4-year, $120 million deal with a $30.1 million per year basis. He is locked up with the Jets through 2030. In other NFL news, the Chiefs and guard Trey Smith are putting the final touches on a massive new extension for him that will make him the highest paid guard in the NFL. It will be a 4-year contract worth $92 million, with $70 million of that guaranteed. The MLS All-Star teams were announced, and Nashville SC had 3 selections in midfielder Hani Mukhtar, making his 4th straight MLS All-Star team. Forward Sam Surridge, who's making his first appearance, and All-Star defender Andy Nahar. This also marks his first appearance and the first time Nashville SC has had 3 All-Stars in club history. The MLB holds its annual All-Star game tonight. On the mound for the AL, it will be Tariq Skubal of the Tigers, and for the NL, it will be Paul Skeens of the Pirates. First pitch for that game scheduled for 7 p.m. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, you need to visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. We just got done talking about 3HL. You guys got to make sure that you guys go and listen to 3HL every day. They got Hugh Freeze, Auburn football players. They got University of Tennessee basketball players. And, of course, the coach of your Tennessee Volunteers, Josh Heupel, will also should be stopping by, just an impromptu stop sometime in the hours to come. No, we had Alex who wanted to talk about Hugh Freeze, and it seems the call dropped. Do you know what he wanted to say about Hugh Freeze?
That much golf wasn't outrageous.
Listen. I got top tier in here says he can't have a life in the F&M Bank chat, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. Ball is life. Football is life.
Don't see Josh Heupel on the course.
Yeah. Well, the next guy that golfed the most in the SEC was Shane Beamer with 3. Okay, so that's a pretty large gap, everybody. 3 versus, what was it, like 20 or 30 or something like that?
It was some golf.
Yeah. 10 in 1 month is more than, and I don't know, maybe it's not a full 18. Maybe it's just 9. That's a lot of golf. People could only dream of playing that much golf.
I would love to play that much golf.
I wish I was good enough to want to play that much golf. Ricky says, God forbid a man have hobbies. Have them on your own time when you're not, haven't had a season higher than 6 wins since COVID. Come on. Hugh Freeze, 5-11 against the SEC. Get your head in the game, not in the clouds and not on the course. Less chipping, more coaching, as they say.
I wonder how his golf game is doing.
It better be very good. I mean, at the very least, he needs that handicap needs to be very close to 0 with all that golf he's doing. If not, what's the point? All right, 615-737-1045. We've been talking about Brian Callahan and him being ranked 32. We know that Will Levis is as Warren Sharp put it, a double agent at quarterback. But Stoney Keeley texted me, besides giving me high praise for that segment and praise for you, the grand poobah Jackson Williams behind the glass.
Excited to have Stoney back on Friday.
He will be back on Friday. He says another thing, just to add to your list, quite a few of their big plays happened off play action, yet they sparingly used play action.
The run game often wasn't good enough to use play action effectively.
Jackson, the run game does not matter when it comes to play action. It literally has very little effect to the effectiveness.
When you're down 30, it does.
No, it doesn't. Everything can stop. It has statistically.
They know you're going to throw the ball if you're down 30.
Well, the very few games were they down 30. We got to at least put that out there. They had a lot of one-score games.
Okay, down 15.
But at the end of the day, it has been able to is shown that it does not matter if it's in garbage time, does not matter if your run game is great. Play action works to some degree. Now, does it have the same effectiveness if with Tony Pollard in a 2-score game versus Derrick Henry in a 2-score game? Probably not. But play action just works because even if it causes the linebacker just a split second of hesitation, that's a split second your wide receiver has to get an extra step on them, or your tight end has an extra step.
I think you saw in the games they won, they used it effectively.
Right.
I think against the Texans specifically in Houston.
There was a time in the Vrabel era where if they hit over 30% play action, they won the game. Now, obviously, different team and everything, but there were many times where they would lose games and they didn't do 30% play action. It's not a perfect correlation, but there was a strong correlation between play action and winning. And for those Tennessee Titans teams. For this Tennessee Titans team, there's a strong correlation between play action and explosives. And this was a team that really wants explosives. But this is also a team with an offensive philosophy that comes from the Bengals, who, guess what? Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense, they don't use a lot of pre-snap motion. They're bottom tier too. They're bottom tier in play action. They're bottom tier in pre-snap motion. So there's a strong correlation here that probably in the first year for Cam Ward, these easy button plays, if you will, the Tennessee Titans will probably be bottom in play action, bottom tier play action, bottom tier in RPOs, bottom tier in pre-snap motions. That will be likely what happens here with this Tennessee Titans team. But that's not all bad. I talked about it last week with Blaine, but these easy button plays, if you will, he still led the entire draft class with 11.2 yards per attempt, removing all those plays. So this is a guy who, even without play action or pre-snap motion and the like, is still finding success at a very high level. In fact, his EPA on non-motion plays in college was almost triple what it was on plays that used motion. Same thing with RPO, nearly tripled in expected points added, which is a stat, if for those that may not know, that on any given play, you should be, on a per-play basis, you're expected to add this many points to your total. And that was a high-flying offense, and we know about the touchdown record that he broke, but he nearly tripled it on non-RPO plays. So this is not a guy that necessarily needs RPOs, non-motions, or RPOs, motions, play actions, and screenplays. Now, he was a lot better in no-huddle situations. Most college quarterbacks probably are. So it's not the end of the world that Callahan is not going to do these things, but it's the NFL versus college, Jackson. And we saw it with Jaden Daniels last year. They implemented a lot of RPOs, a lot of play action, a lot of runs. And, of course, Jaden Daniels is a better runner than Cam Ward. But they implemented a lot with Jaden Daniels that made life easy for him in those first few weeks while he got his feet wet. And then they started taking away the easy stuff and put it in some harder stuff. And that's really what the Tennessee Titans should be doing instead of, especially with their schedule, the first few weeks of the NFL season.
So this is a broader question that maybe we need to answer later in the week. How much trust do you have in this coaching staff to help Cam Ward in the ways they didn't help Will Levis?
I think that's a good question. And I think that's
it's a broad question.
It's a kind of a fence-sitting question. Is like, I think Cam Ward can do a lot of the stuff that Will Levis couldn't. I do think that Cam Ward is a guy that can fit this Bengals model that Brian Callahan is so intent to put into here. We have heard that there's a lot of overlap between this offensive system and what he did in Miami. So I do think...
But they didn't do it.
So it's like, yeah, I think they could do it, but I don't think they have to, if that makes sense.
I get that, but they didn't do Will Levis any favors last year.
No, listen, they did not do Will Levis favors. Will Levis didn't do himself favors. The offensive line didn't do Will Levis favors, and they didn't do either of them.
They failed
favors.
collectively.
Yeah, it was a collective failure. I agree. And I do think Will Levis, though, does deserve the largest part of the blame pie. I mean, we're talking about a guy who threw 3 games, had 3 pick sixes?
I just think there's
4 games. He had 4 games with at least an interception straight up in the front.
I think there's worse quarterbacks in the NFL, though, that have won more games. Like Jake Browning. This staff did this with Jake Browning. I think Will Levis is a better quarterback than Jake Browning.
Why do you? Okay, let's ask you
talented,
this.
more talented quarterback.
Yeah, like he has the better arm.
The better skill set.
But this is also why the marriage between head coach and quarterback is so important, because very few times do you see big sweeping changes in an offensive scheme. Like when they went from Joe Burrow to Jake Browning, obviously Jake Browning does different things and stuff that Joe Burrow can't do, right? We've seen it. But they're still operating the same playbook in the same scheme. It's just that they're calling different plays for Jake Browning. I think they called different plays for Mason Rudolph and for Will Levis within the scheme of the playbook. We saw it with Art Smith right here in 2019. They didn't they didn't create an entire new playbook for Ryan Tannehill. They just found a quarterback that can do more of the playbook. And I think that's what you're going to find with Cam Ward, is that they have found a quarterback that could do more of the playbook. And I think what they tried to do last year, and this is something that we said on the show numerous times, that I think they put too much on Will Levis's plate, expecting him to be something he's not. I do have that fear that they're doing that with Cam Ward, but we'll see. I kind of think Cam Ward can probably handle it. I think he's a guy that could do a 80-wing challenge, where if you put 80 wings on the plate for Will Levis, he could probably only do 30. That's kind of where I'm at. Is like, I do think that Cam Ward can handle more from the get-go. Does not mean that Will Levis year 3 can't handle the same amount as rookie Cam Ward, but that means that they're on different playing fields anyway. And we'll talk more tomorrow about the differences in college between Cam Ward and Will Levis. But first, I want to go to your phones. What's their name, Jackson?
This is James in the Borough.
James in the Borough, you're on with Zach and the Grand Poobah himself.
I'm here. Yeah. No, I was just saying, I was talking about Will Levis. Will Levis is not a good quarterback. End of story. He and I love the Titans. Multiple games with interceptions, 3 picks. I mean, he was not good for us. No, this isn't like the best Titans team that we've ever had. We're not even top 4 this past season or the season before that. That being said, Will Levis hurt us a lot more than he helped us. I think he'd be great I think he'd be good as a number 2, because he does have spurts to where you're like, okay, he's going to have a good game. But then he does a thing. It's like when you have 2 guys playing and one person has that it factor. Will Levis doesn't have that it factor. He didn't have it at Kentucky. He sure as heck didn't have it for us. And so I'm just wondering, like, why is it that we're riding on the Will Levis bandwagon when he hasn't done anything at all to show that, he deserves a starting spot? Just wondering you all's take on that.
James, I agree. He's not your starter. He shouldn't be your starter. Backup at best.
I think his ceiling is a Ryan Fitzpatrick type career.
Yeah, and that's a lofty ceiling that he still has to show that he can even achieve. So I agree with you, James. I mean, anybody that's still promoting Will Levis as number QB1, it's not really reality at this point in time. For any team, likely. Maybe the Browns.
The Saints.
Maybe the Saints.
The Saints are going to be dreadful. I don't think people are ready for that.
It's going to be
because they've been, at the very least, competitive.
Yeah.
I think they bottom out this year.
Well, and Tyler Shuck probably gets injured at some point if he even wins the starting job. So there you go. All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by Coach Mack. Titans Radio, Weekly Mack Attack. Brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, South Most Trusted Ford Dealer. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons right here on 104.5 The Zone.
Only $49.99.
Heard the Mark Patrick weight loss hypnosis hype? Well, I attended because my father stopped smoking. I lost 70 pounds and my friend lost 20 pounds in the first 2 months.
Wow, what are you waiting for? Join Mark Patrick seminars and lose the weight or stop smoking guaranteed for only $49.99.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. You know what that music means. It's time for Coach Mack and our weekly Mack Attack, brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, South's most trusted Ford dealer. And Coach Mack, it's been a while. Hope you enjoyed a little summer break yourself from the show.
Hey, Zach. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I did. Got a little stuff done. Did several clinics. Have been back here for a minute, taking care of some business, getting ready to go. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming up on Titans Radio, so it's time to get back to work.
That it is, and training camp is next week for the Tennessee Titans, and with the summer break nearing its end for its players, what are you going to be looking for in Cam Ward those first few days compared to what he showed you?
It's more than the first few days. I mean, it's going to be a process. I think this is a very critical training camp because this is a very young football team. We're going to Atlanta and going to Tampa Bay to practice against two opponents that are different than your own people. I think that's going to be very, very important to watch the development. But Cam Ward has just got to stay on the same track that he has started on. But it's going to elevate because everything starts to intensify now. Training camp, and training camp urgency is much different, Zach, than it is when you first come in brand new and start coalescing and putting a brand new team together like this team is during a mini camps or even during the OTA periods. This is a much more intense period now that is beginning, and I'm just looking forward to development. That is the key word for this football team right now. Is consistent and steady development from the start of this training camp in 2025.
When the joint practices do get rolling and things get a little bit more real and a little bit faster and a little bit more different for Cam Ward, how do you kind of like balance maybe the mistakes that he makes with what you want to see as progress during those times?
To let him make mistakes, that's part of it. That's part of progressing is making mistakes. And that's the way you learn. And he's going to make mistakes. I've done this for 39 straight seasons. I've never seen a rookie quarterback not make mistakes early on. But also, as I say, you're looking for progression, and you're looking for progression in meaningful spots. And what you don't want to see, you can make mistakes, but it doesn't have to be a peaks and valley type of an issue. It's got to be something that even as you're making the mistake, you're rebounding from it on a steady stream and moving forward. That's what I look for, not only in the quarterback, but really in all positions, especially with rookie players, is finding how quickly they can get on a steady line and start to develop on a steady line rather than having a lot of peaks and valleys on a consistent basis.
You know, penalties last year were killer for the Tennessee Titans. And I know this new look off-season program point system that Brian Callahan has installed is supposed to kind of help with that by rewarding points or taking away points and this and that. But how do you think the Titans have done a job of putting themselves in the best position possible to improve on that?
Well, the first thing is those are self-inflicted wounds that you just cannot have. And you can talk about them all you want. Yeah, you can incentivize it. You can work on it. But clearly, it comes down to the mental discipline of the individual players. I mean, it's those types of things are mental discipline issues, and that's what I talk about when I talk about consistency for players. I'm talking about consistency on every level, not just how they're going to execute what they do in positionally. It's the whole set of the mindset during the ball game. And so it's not something that just magically appears. You have to concentrate on it. You have to point it out. You have to be very, very self-aware of it. And those are extremely, extremely important. Now, are you going to ever be completely perfect on that? No, but you cannot have that be a major deterrent as a season goes on. That has to be something that, again, goes into the consistency that I'm talking about. And each person is responsible for that as a professional player. And then as a group, you have to be responsible about that.
You know, during this break, do you as a coach tweak certain things from what you saw players do before the break at the OTAs and the mini camps? Or do you just sort of stay the course and hope that kind of all the stuff you saw gets straightened out over the course of training camp?
No. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not even anywhere near to a strategy. You are constantly looking at things, and that was the reason, for the other than just the indoctrination, for all of the OTAs, for all of the mini camps, and then you look and see what people can do. You've got a brand new football team. You're trying to find out what people can do, their strengths. You try to find out where they feel the most comfortable. So you absolutely, as a coach, you are constantly tweaking things. Now, it doesn't mean that you're constantly tearing everything down, but you are clearly, always have, always will. I always did as a coach. Every staff I've ever been on, everything I've ever been in charge of as a coach, you are always looking for ways to improve, and part of that is self-reflection and self-evaluation as you move along.
How much do defensive schemes change year to year? Is it more about personnel turnover, or are defensive coordinators, just tweaking their packages the same way offenses do?
That's the same. It's exactly the same. And personnel does make a difference. Everybody has a base philosophy, but even within that base philosophy, it has to be malleable enough that you can add the different people with different skill sets, Zach, just like we have talked about. What do you do? What do you do to be able to fit exactly what your players can do best? There has to be a baseline, and there has to be something that you can start to build from, but you absolutely do. That doesn't just take place as one big totality. That takes place weekly during the week in the National Football League. The National Football League is about adjusting to matchups. And you're constantly doing that, not only matchups against who the opponents are coming in, but matching up your players' skill sets to what they can do best to produce positive results.
When you're Brian Callahan, since coming into the Tennessee Titans, has talked a lot about how he studied all these play callers, like Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay, et cetera, and that everybody kind of steals something from everybody. How do you go about that process of stealing stuff to make your own to benefit your team? Is it because every team is just a little bit different, how do you figure out as a coach what would work for your team based off what you saw another team do?
Well, I mean, you get concepts offensively, defensively, even special teams wise. Everybody borrows from everybody else in the National Football League, and it's a constantly evolving process. When you're coaching in this league, I mean, I did a lot of clinics when I was gone just to find out kind of what the trends are. But the trends are really personalized for the clubs that you're playing. But it's about talking to people, and it's about being able and you talk to a lot of people that have played some of the people that you are trying to emulate, if that's a good word for it, just to find out what hurts it, what doesn't hurt it, what it does to be successful and not successful. That's a constant process. That's something that you're constantly doing, because if you're not staying in tune with what's going on, well, then you're not being fair to your job, and you're not being honest to your job. All good coaches have borrowed something from somebody else, and that's historically.
If Kevin Winston is a quote-unquote full go at the start of training camp, how quickly can he work his way into that safety rotation, being that he hasn't been on the field for the most part? And also, what is the learning curve for a rookie in this Denard Wilson system?
Well, there's a learning curve, and he hasn't. He has not been on the field yet. I mean, he's been there for all the meetings, and he's working his way back. But you don't worry about how quickly they're going to come back. You're worried about how competent they are when they are picking it up. First of all, you don't ever want to rush an injured player back, and expecting him to be coach, quote, full go. Full go is a nebulous term, but in a process to coming back, I just know this: watching him play in the collegiate game before he got hurt, and then just observing him. He hasn't done anything with the team yet, but just observing him and working out, this year. This is going to be a special type of an athlete. But I will say this: there will be 3 safety packages incorporated in this defense, and this defense has 3 safety packages, just like most of the defenses. In fact, that I've been investigating during this time that I've been off with other places. That's part of the National Football League now because of the matchups. The matchups are everything. He will be involved in that. How quickly depends on his health, but you want to bring those players along at a pace that they experience, that you don't just flush them in there completely and throw everything at them so that they're not competent at anything. You want to see where they fit, how they're going to fit, but the first and foremost priority on all of this, when is he going to be healthy enough to be able to execute what you want him to do?
When you say how confident they are when picking it up, to when talking about kind of Kevin Winston or any rookie coming off injury, and how confident they are in picking up a certain system, what do you mean by that? And what are some signs of that?
It just comes with reps. I mean, it comes with reps. That's the way. That's the way. Clearly, that's the final stage in becoming competent is reps. And when you're coming back from an injury, your first job with reps is to get your injury and to get yourself back physically. But you've got to learn. You've got to learn by being out there. That is the greatest confidence builder, and that's also the thing that you can gauge the best is when they're finally out on the field. So he's got to get out on the field first, and that's what you look at, and that's where you have to have reasonable expectations, and you have to work on things that he seems to be grasping quickly and things that he's not. Then you go back and find out why he's not. It's a back and forth thing between the player and the coach to find out where he feels more comfortable early on. That is what coaching is.
With you having firsthand experience with guys changing positions from the NCAA to NFL, how much growth can we expect to see from James Williams going from his rookie year to sophomore after transitioning from safety in college to linebacker at the NFL?
Well, you saw it last year. I mean, you saw it. He was much different at the end of the season than he was at the beginning. He was much different in this offseason, just watching him work. And again, it's time on task. That is a key phrase for anybody that's coming in new to anything is time on task. And that's both the responsibility of time on task, clearly, is the coaching, but it's also the individual player. I know that this guy has put a lot of work into it, but you continue to watch, and if you've got consistent growth there, then you know you're on the right path. I believe just watching him, and again, I'm not in their meetings, but just watching on the field, because I'm there every day looking at him, you can tell that his time on task and his focus on what he is learning from dropping down from the top to that second level, he has made some pretty good strides. And he's had some really good instruction from Frank Bush.
How important is it, in your opinion, that these young players have stability in coaching year to year, especially with a rookie quarterback? And, with that, if you deem that very, very important, how do you kind of traverse that in maybe a season that doesn't equal a lot of wins?
Well, I mean, you progress. The goal is clearly for everybody as a group to win, but your individual progress, is you've got to have enough patience, and you've got to have enough insight to understand, what progress is. You can always be improving, and you never know when it's going to flip where everybody starts improving on a level that they can come together. And then when the time comes, you've got to make the plays that make a difference in a ball game. That comes with individual players and coaches, and then the groups as a whole being able to be able to turn that at those moments. But to do that, you have to put in the proper preparation and foundation. There is no magic formula for that at all, Zach. None.
What is the number one trait you feared the most from quarterbacks when you were a defensive coordinator?
Consistency. Guys that are able to operate with consistently. That's what you what you do as a defensive coordinator. You are trying to unsettle the offense. And the key component you're trying to unsettle first is the quarterback. Now, how do you do that? Do you unsettle his protection? Do you unsettle the people that are supposed to be complimenting him and things that they do? So the guy that is non-pulsed, that even if something bad happens, can bounce back from it and is able to overcome in situations where you may feel during the course of a ball game, things have ebb and flows during the course of a ball game, and you as a defense, you are trying to get the upper hand. But if a quarterback, even if you are successful against him early, can bounce back, those are the things that bother you as a defensive coordinator, is that everything that I've thrown at him, some have been successful, but we can't ever let up against him because he is not going to tank. And that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to unsettle and tank an offense. And if they've got players across the board that stay pretty steady, even when things have not gone well for them, that bothers you defensively.
Well, Coach, I got to brag on our listeners just real quick, because every one of these, I think, really good questions that gave us in-depth answers today came from our listeners, because I asked for everybody to give me their input and what they wanted to hear from you on Twitter today. So got some of the smartest listeners in the NFL, I think.
Well, I mean, I've always felt that in all the years that I've been on the radio here, with this group. That's one thing that I really enjoy about doing this job here, and the ability to interact with the fans and with the listeners, because people, that's why, when we broadcast a game, I try to give all of our listeners, and even when I'm talking out in public, just a little bit of insight, not to get knee deep in a whole lot of technical things, but try to give them insight, because people care, and people are very, very interested. I've always been very impressed with the football intelligence of even when I was coaching here, of the fans of this football team, and then when I got on the radio, the listeners of this show. So I'm very glad to hear that. That's why I do Mack Talk every year. We'll have 20 Mack Talks starting when the season starts, because I enjoy listening and communicating with our fans, and I love hearing that.
Well, we're just a week away from Titans training camp, and we'll be joined by Coach Mack every Tuesday from here on in. We greatly appreciate it, Coach Mack, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Guys, glad to be back with you. See you.
See ya. When we come back, we'll wrap up talking more about the Tennessee Titans, and maybe, is there a possibility that a certain player could be available for the Tennessee Titans in next year's draft that was drafted this year? This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here at 104.5 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. 615-737-1045 is the number. That's the first one. That's a first timer on the show, and I like that song.
Oh, cool.
Add it to the rotation. Good job, Grand Poobah, Jackson Williams behind the glass. I noticed that Joseph, executive producer of 3HL, was a little bit jealous of your title, the Grand Poobah. Would you like to respond, Joseph, that you're jealous that you're just called executive producer and he's called the Grand Poobah?
Listen, all I want to say is I didn't get to pick my title. It was given to me. So Jackson got to pick his title.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I went with that, but...
What would you go with if you had a choice to pick, Joseph?
Can I think about it and tell you tomorrow?
You can, or you could tell 3HL to start calling you that today later on the show.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
They got a little bit too... they got some more important stuff to talk about today.
All right. That sounds good. Ross is back behind the glass. He did a good job producing Buck's show, I thought, on my way into work. So good on you, Ross. Just giving compliments to all the producers today.
Buck gave him a C-.
Yeah, I think it was better than a C-.
I'd give you a B+.
Here's the thing. Buck grades need to be on a scale. If it's a C- from Buck, it's probably a B+ to A- from anybody else.
I was going to say, I think a C- from him is very different on other grading scales.
I would agree.
That's a pretty fine, bang-up job you did, bud. At a moment's notice, too.
All right. The Cincinnati Bengals, terrible offseason so far. They handle everything very poorly. But this whole contract negotiation thing with Shamar Stewart is a mess. Now, Shamar Stewart is the edge out of Texas A&M. They drafted in the first round. He has yet to truly participate in any offseason activities. I think he was out there standing during stretches, and that was about the most they got out of him. Now, if you guys listen to the show, I was very concerned about the prospects of Shamar Stewart as a prospect just because he didn't have a lot of sacks, didn't have a lot of tackles for losses, not a lot of production. Now, some people try to explain that away as, it's a system or this or that, but he just didn't finish. You got to finish when you have the chance. But it would be a very good thing, and it is a possibility, maybe a very far-fetched one, that he could enter in the draft next year. Now, he cannot go back to school. Declaring for the NFL draft means that you lose the rest of your eligibility. I did not know that. But you are able to go and re-enter the draft because he has not signed a contract. They lose all rights to it. They don't get anything for it. Hey, you're the idiots that couldn't get your rookie to sign the contract. That's your problem. So, if he were to do that, that's really good for the Tennessee Titans because the Tennessee Titans are likely picking in the top 15, and maybe that's being generous. They're probably picking in the top 5 or top 10. Who knows? But they need an edge rusher. And I'm not saying they should draft Shamar Stewart because if Shamar Stewart cannot go back and play at school, in college, according to the rules here for the NFL's College Advisory Committee, he cannot go back and play at college. So if that's the case, he's going to be a year off from football. Stay away from him. But that is another talent that people will view as a first-round talent that will be in the NFL draft. And the more first-round talents, the more day one picks at a position of need for your team, like edge rusher, is huge for the Tennessee Titans. Now, there are guys like T.J. Parker, the guy from Ole Miss whose name escapes me right now, who led the SEC in sacks. You also have Colin Simmons. I don't think Colin Simmons will be eligible to come out, but L.T. Overton. There's a lot of guys, a lot of edge rushers that are up at that high point in this NFL draft that could really help the Tennessee Titans. So I want, as a fan, selfishly, of the Tennessee Titans, more players to enter the draft so more teams maybe don't take your guy. More opportunity for you, the Tennessee Titans, to fix your position of need. That's been a pretty big position of need. But considering that he himself is going to have to take a year off of football because the NFL College Advisory Committee has said, the rule is once you declare, you lose all remaining eligibility. And you don't have to stick with the Bengals as long as he doesn't sign a contract. If he doesn't sign a contract and sits out this entire year, then he is eligible to enter in the NFL draft next year. Again, Tennessee Titans should not draft him, but the more, I guess, fish in the barrel for everybody to fish from, the better. What you got, Jackson?
How much do you think it would hurt his draft stock?
I don't think it will because this is a Bengals issue, not necessarily a him issue. And most people will understand that. But I do think, okay, let me say this. I don't think the holdout hurts his draft stock, but I do think taking a year off from football does. I think that is the worst thing you can do as any kind of player outside of, obviously getting injured or something. But like the worst thing you can do, and crimes, the worst thing you could do is sit out a year of football game. Crimes. The worst thing you could do is sit out of football for a year willingly because you're never going to get that back.
And crimes.
And crimes. And we're never going to see that ever again. Like we saw it with Deshaun Watson. He sat out years, and he also had, I guess, crimes too, but allegedly. And we saw that affect his play. We saw it with Le'Veon Bell when he decided to sit out a year. Hassan Reddick sat out most of the year, and he didn't even look the same. So at some point, this doesn't make sense for Shamar Stewart, but I do wonder how far he's willing to let this go because it has happened in the NFL. He wouldn't be the first. It's just a very rare occurrence. It would be a better rule if the NFL allowed him to kind of enter through the waivers or maybe do something different. But taking a year off is a big thing for a rookie to do, especially a rookie who needs this time. He's already missed out an entire offseason so far. Sure, he's working out at Texas A&M, and good for him that he's working out at over there. And let's be honest, maybe Texas A&M, maybe Texas A&M's facilities as an SEC school is better than the Bengals facilities. I would not be surprised. But at the end of the day, you have to get on the field. You have to practice. And he's only hurting himself. And I understand that the Bengals are hurting him too, and they're just a bad guy as well. But in the long run, he's kind of hurting himself more because there is concern. Maybe he drops to day 2 or day 3. So then you lost that millions of dollars. And then maybe you're not even going to be that good because you took a year off. There's a lot working against him. It's not just as simple as, well, the Bengals are bad guys. Shamar Stewart has every right to do what he's doing, but this may not be the smart play on his behalf. But it's kind of hard to take the Bengals side in this at all. I mean, just get the kid signed.
If this was standard, you take the Bengals side. They are just trying to weasel something in and not really. And they're committed. I do respect the commitment to the bit.
They're committed to the bit.
Yeah, they're committed to the bit wholeheartedly.
With every player, it feels like, right? With every player that they either draft, sign to the roster, need an extension, it's like pulling teeth.
Everyone's just pissed.
Everyone's mad. I mean, I could not imagine being a Bengals fan and having to go through this every time, like with some new signing. Like, why isn't Trey Hendrickson signed? The Eagles have shown that the salary cap is malleable. All right, that will do it for us today. What would you grade the show today, Grand Poobah Jackson Williams?
I think a solid A because we got Coach Mack back, 3HL, had a good time with us. So, A show today, bud.
There you go. I appreciate it. Appreciate everybody listening. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about the biggest things that the Tennessee Titans can change from 2024 to 2025 and how Cam Ward fits into all of that. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons right here on 105 The Zone. 3HL's up next. And in the meantime.
And in between time, peace.